always be controlled by a USB port. So you can just connect it with a laptop and use it. So it depends on the sensor, like it can be from DC to 67 gigahertz. There are some of the examples that I have put in here. The thermal power sensor, it works with the thermocouple principle, and this gives the highest accuracy, but they of course take more time. Then the average power sensors, and we have the diode power sensors, and the wideband power sensors. The wideband power sensors come into picture when we have to do pulse analysis of the radar. And these can always be connected by USB port. You can connect one or you can connect many with the help of a laptop, and the GUI is always there on the screen, so you can carry out the measurements. Okay, the next thing is that I mentioned that EMF radiation. So EMF radiation is also causing some harm, or people want to evaluate it first, that how to get this proper EMF. So I will just briefly tell that what are these standards for these measurements, and then we'll also discuss that what are the shortcomings in doing this measurement with the help of normal antenna. So there are some international bodies which have given these guidelines. So one is referred to as International Commission for Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. So now in newspapers we always come to know that like every fortnight there is a big news that this government has come up with one regulation to regulate the power output from the BTSs, and these regulations are done by international bodies like this, and in India by the Council. Okay, so we have to see that these are basically the guidelines from this particular body, and we will discuss like the bandwidth and other things in the coming slides. So these are only for details. Okay, so I must tell that over here that the measurement that we are going to make has to consider the frequency band of operation, the frequency we are going to analyze, the polarization of that particular frequency or the signal that we are going to measure, and of course the level. We should also be having some idea of the level, and there should be one antenna to cater to this one particular frequency band, a broadband measurement. And they also define that what is the bandwidth of that signal that we are going to measure, because the bandwidth defines the power in that particular frequency. So if we select, for example, a FM radio and give it like wider bandwidth, and then we'll get more noise. So averaging out will give different result as compared to the signal itself. Look. Same is in the case of UMTS, which is operating at higher bandwidth. So that we can do with the help of a spectrum analyzer. So these three antennas that we are seeing here are the isotropic ones. Why isotropic? Because this EMF is not incident from one particular direction only, even if it is from the BTS tower coming. We have to evaluate its effect in the environment. So it should not be directional only, because it is not affecting the direct line of sight, but all other people. So in that situation, we have to have the isotropic antennas for the complete frequency range. What we are going to analyze, so these antennas are covering various frequency range. And then we should be having a software to get those values from the spectrum analyzer. So tri-axis measurement is being done, X, Y, and Z, and then these results are calculated and shown on the spectrum analyzer screen. You can always define the frequency of interest or the service of interest rather, and get the measurements done. So these are the antennas that are being used. It's like this solution is up to 6 gigahertz, and then we have to, beyond that 6 gigahertz, the communication becomes more directional, and then we have to go with the directional antennas and do it in the tri-axis. It should have good sensitivity, of course. It depends on the antenna isotropicity, so that it is not directional and it ignores all other frequency components, but it should cover everything. So this was from the EMF measurements. More details are also there. We can always discuss it. So now we discuss about the spectrum analyzer specifications. So we have seen that what all are the building blocks of the spectrum analyzer, and now we'll discuss that how should we select a proper spectrum analyzer for our application, that what all parameters are going to affect it. Of course, what is the frequency range? The first and foremost, what is the frequency range? So, ideally it says that it should cover the 10th harmonic. But it depends, like you are analyzing which frequency range and how would be the determination of the 10th harmonic. In high frequency ranges, it's rather good that you go with the second harmonic or third harmonic. That is more sufficient. Then we should see the level range or the sensitivity of the instrument. If your signal is very low, then your spectrum analyzer sensitivity should be lower than the level of that particular signal. Only then you can carry out the analysis, otherwise it will be hidden in the noise and then you do not make any content out of it, any analysis. What is the required dynamic range? Dynamic range in simplest terms refers to that how small is the weakest signal that we can represent and the highest signal in the vicinity of it. So this determines that how good is spectrum analyzer if it does not rise into saturation. And how accurate is my measurement? The accuracy may be in terms of the frequency, that if the frequency that is coming is 1.1 megahertz and our spectrum analyzer is reading 1.2 megahertz, and it is quite an accurate measurement. And similarly, the level also, that how much dB or 0.1 dB level inaccuracy, like plus minus 0.1 dB is acceptable, but more than that is like, it is not to be used in case of spectrum analysis. So they say, okay, the absolute level and a comparison is made with the reference level or a relative measurement, so that the accuracies are there in terms of frequency as well as level. Frequency, relative frequency, and level relative level. Okay, this is determined by the internal frequency, aging, and this is something that is the phase noise that we already know, that the phase noise of the spectrum analyzer should be lower than the phase noise of the device that we are going to test. The green also shows the device under test, and the blue is the phase noise of the spectrum analyzer. So we can always clearly find out that how is the phase noise of the device under test. So it can be defined at various offsets for the peak. The peak is the carrier, we say DBC, and what particular level this phase noise is toned down to. The spurious which is there, what is the particular level of that spurious? And it can be set at various offsets, like you can say from 10 kilohertz till 1 megahertz. You can define. So that we have defined 100 hertz, the side table, and 1 kilohertz. The more you go, the better the phase noise becomes. But the nearest one at 1 kilohertz is the value which is rather used in the applications. Because the farther you go, the lower the level becomes, and that is quite obvious. But the nearest signal is the one which will interfere with your measurement applications. Now we say that how better we can resolve a too closely spaced frequency. So that is the work of the resolution bandwidth, not the video bandwidth. So here we say that if we take these two signals, these two green peaks are spaced at 3 kilohertz apart. And when we use a filter RBW of 30 kilohertz, so this seems to be single peak only. Though they are quite same in the amplitude, but it appears a rather small dip and a single peak. So you cannot make out whether there are two signals or there is one signal only. But the situation changes when you see the level of the second frequency component is lower. So you see a single peak that defeats the entire process, the red peak. It says that okay, this is only one signal. But if we minimize that particular resolution bandwidth, we could see two different signals which are 3 kilohertz spaced apart. That means we have to put the bandwidth to 1 kilohertz, and then we can see two different signals. And then this depends on the shape factor of the RBW, this resolution bandwidth filter. So we define that it is always desired that the filter's selectivity should be as high as possible. We always wish that the shape factor should be lower while the selectivity should be higher. Okay. So what we have earlier said that DANL is not measured in terms of the video bandwidth. Video bandwidth is having the application just to smoothen the trace, while your sensitivity can always be improved by putting the attenuator to the on situation. So this is the noise signal, while the main signal, that is your signal of interest, is there. So a change in this let's do, for example, like switching on the attenuator has given it a dk attenuation change, but that is no particular formula to present it. DANL. So displayed average noise level, it defines the sensitivity of your measurement. That how sensitive is this spectrum analyzer and what are the minimum frequency, minimum signal levels it can analyze. So as a general rule of thumb, it says that signal analyzer noise display will increase with resolution by 10 dB per 10 times the resolution bandwidth. So you increase the resolution by a factor of 10. For example, your resolution bandwidth is 10 Hz and you make it 100 Hz. The noise floor will increase by 10 dB. So this is a normal rule of thumb. You cannot do anything in that. Also, the DANL, the sensitivity of the filter, also depends upon the resolution bandwidth of filter type. Okay, the DANL is not affected. This fact is again stated that DANL is not affected by averaging or the video bandwidth. This is distortion. The second or the third harmonic distortion. What is the second harmonic distortion that we always say that there is a second harmonic distortion? So, second harmonic distortion is the result of the input signal generated from the input of the mixer. While if we apply a two-tone signal and that results into the modulation, we call it a third order distortion. Dynamic test. Okay, here we are showing that how we can identify whether the signal, because the signals are always there, so how can we identify whether the signal is the desired signal, desired carrier, or the distortion only, the undesired component. So we can just press the analyzer if the level of the main carrier is not decreasing and the other components are going down, and those components are referred to as a distortion. The reason for being is recognition also, that it is because the distortion components are also generated in the spectrum analyzer itself. Okay. Here they say that the third order intercept is the level of the third order distortion product is equal to the fundamental level, the signal of our interest. While the second order intercept is the level where second order distortion, which are due to the first signal in the mixer, is reaching the fundamental level. Now we say that what all is there in Rohde-Schwarz signal or spectrum analyzer portfolio. So we begin with a handheld version. Sorry? We define the sensitivity in terms of DANL, displayed average noise level. And that is always more than the thermal noise, floor minus 174 dB. And third order intercept we want to know. Okay. So third order intercept sensitivity of the spectrum analyzer is defined in terms of the DANL. And third order intercept defined, and when the signal level in the mixer, when two-tone signal in the mixer gives out the output, and when this output reaches to the fundamental level, this is referred as fundamental level. As we said that how can we distinguish whether this is a distortion or the signal that we are interested in? Fine. So at times we get, when we have put in these spectrum analyzers connected with the DUT, we get multiple signals. One is from the desired component, and the other may be some distortion product. So how to distinguish between them? What we do is we switch on the attenuator. If switching on the attenuator does not make difference to one carrier, the peak one, that is the desired component, and the other components, those are the distortion products, that will be reduced. The reason being is that these distortion products are also generated within the spectrum analyzer. When you switch on the spectrum analyzer's attenuation, these level is minimized and the mixer is not in the saturation region, and these distortion products are minimized. So in that way you can always determine that, okay, this is the desired signal. Is it little clear? Dynamic of the you want to measure the sensitivity of your DUT. Okay, so first we assume that your DUT noise floor is more than the spectrum analyzer's noise floor, only then we can analyze that particular signal. You just connect it to the spectrum analyzer and you will see that what all noise component is there. You give any desired signal to it and those signals will always be above the noise floor. So you can measure that, okay, this is the sensitivity of my device, or rather this is the sensitivity of the spectrum analyzer. You put it in a particular frequency, for example 1 gigahertz, and you define the video bandwidth accordingly as mentioned in the data sheet. Put it 1 kilohertz or 1 hertz, and then you can see the noise flow going down. And this is the sensitivity of the spectrum analyzer. Is it clear? So now we come to the end that the signal analyzers start from its benchtop or say handheld. So handheld spectrum analyzers can always go up to 8 gigahertz or 18 gigahertz. And then the real-time spectrum analyzers, which are FFT based, this can also mention that it can determine it can let you identify whether the two signals are present in the same frequency but different levels. With the help of then direct sweep generators in high frequency region, it goes up to 6 to 7 gigahertz, and the analysis bandwidth. So spectrum analyzers, we have not discussed the analysis bandwidth for the same reason that we are dealing with analog signals. So analog bandwidths are always available. But when we go for digital signal analysis, we may be needing some very wide band spectrum analyzers or say signal analyzers. For that, 160 megahertz is also available, and this is also useful not in terms of digital signals, but also when you are analyzing the pulse. And then we have a different product families. That FSC means like this is the beginning of the spectrum analyzer series, and then going on with FSH and FSW, which gives you the evaluation or analysis bandwidth of 160 megahertz. Then these also give you various power measurement functionalities. You can always connect the power sensor to the spectrum analyzer and carry out your measurements, and you can always remote control those measurements as required. And then there are general purpose application firmware. So for example, in terms of signal analyzer, if you wish to analyze a CDMA signal, or for example a WCDMA signal, firmware is always uploaded into the spectrum analyzer. In that case, you can analyze that standard signal protocol. There may be a situation in which you wish to develop your own signal with different phase settings, a custom modulated signal you have given with the help of a signal source, RF signal source, and you want to analyze that. So that can also be analyzed with the help of a signal analyzer. Then MIMO configuration, and then some standard WLAN, WiMAX testing, and then EMC pre-compliance. So EMC pre-compliance is also used. I mentioned EMC pre-compliance. Pre-compliance is not the compliant measurement. In compliant measurements, we have to use the receiver. Receivers operate in the FFT band, through FFT. So we can use it with the help of near field probes, and we can take it near to our device that we are currently designing, and we can get out that what all emissions are being given out by that particular device that we have developed. Also VOR and ILS, these are the aviation techniques, this communication method for navigational aid basically. for the aircraft, so vertical omni radar and instrument landing system. So these type of testing can also be done with the help of the spectrum analyzer. Signal can be generated with the help of signal generator and then can be analyzed. So we can show it like this, that we begin with the handheld spectrum analyzers, this FSH, and this network this handheld spectrum analyzer can also be used as a network analyzer up till 8 GHz, full two-port measurements. You can test your antennas, and this is being handled till 8 GHz so that you can take it in the field. There are frequencies coming up to 6 GHz, so that you can always take it in the field and you can make all the measurements. Then ZBH is basically a network analyzer only. It can also do the spectrum analysis. FSC, that I have got with me here over here, you can measure the analog signals. Then we have FSL, which can also be used as a network analyzer. FSV, this can do analog as well as digital signal analysis. Even the custom modulated signal can be demodulated by this instrument and you can carry out the analysis quickly. Now the word is coming over here, sir, please.
The loss of cable and connectors using this spectrum analyzer, because we are getting around 3 dB loss when we are connecting the cable, including your antenna.
We can do so. We have got the instrument.
It is coming around 3 dB.
Okay, that is very significant. That's very significant.
Just 50%.
Yeah, 50%. So, maybe it's a new connector or some problem with the cable. Maybe some of the reasons. We can do that, sir. Testing we can do. And then FSV, I said that it can also do the vector signal analysis along with analog signal analysis. Then FSD is used for wideband communication technologies. It is not being generally used for all these measurements. FSVR, this is the spectrum analyzer which is real-time, a gapless FFT is implemented over here. And then you can carry out the measurement, and it is also very useful when you are going for the development of software-defined radios. So you need to measure the hops of the signal. So you can use FSVR for that particular application. What is the hop rate? Then FMU is for the baseband signal, for the infrared. And then we have other signal sources which are used for calibration or testing. So that was all from my side regarding the spectrum analysis, and we may assemble in CC3 for the necessary testing, those who are interested. It's done now. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask, because in the presentation many of you may not have asked.
Important and valuable knowledge. Now I would like to invite respected Dr. Nidesh Purohit sir to give memento to the respected Mr. Suraj Verma on behalf of Rhodian. As the time is moving faster towards the end of the workshop, last but not the least, we will have the hands-on session by Rhodian Schwartz team from 10 to 12 p.m. in CC3 room number 5042. And all of you have been given the feedback forms. So I request you to please submit the feedback forms after the hands-on session.